Good morning, Longview Chapel. I'm Dave Stangor, Board Chair, if you don't already know who I am. This morning we had to cancel service outside because of the rain, so unfortunately that didn't work, but we had scheduled this congregational meeting and did not want to delay it further. By our bylaws, we are required to have 2 congregational meetings a year. Normally those are in June and December, the first Sunday of each month. Of course, this year with COVID, a lot of things have changed. A lot of things have kind of been changed to work around things. Because of that, we didn't even have outdoor service beginning until July, and we didn't want to try to throw in a congregational meeting when we were still trying to work out the kinks to our outdoor service. So per board approval, we've been delaying this, but we didn't want to delay it further. So it is August 9th, Sunday, August 9th, and this is the first congregational meeting of the year that is for what would normally have taken place in June. Normally at the June congregational meeting, we don't have a whole lot to discuss. We generally just kind of talk about things that have been going on with the church and all that, and I'll do a little of that. But we do actually have some changes to our bylaws that have been made. Those will be discussed, and those actually need to be voted on to be approved. Over the last few weeks, you should have been hearing about these changes, being sent electronic copies of the proposed changes, along with summaries of those changes. It's been in the newsletter, it's been in emails. There's been an opportunity, if you needed the physical copies to be mailed to you, that we could have sent those out. And as of this morning, we are sending out a special email that will have a link to a electronic voting for the proposed changes. All responses, whether they are done by the electronic survey or if you had gotten a ballot, which there's a physical ballot available. You can also call into the office and give Shelley your vote this week, but this Friday, which would be the 14th, I believe, will be our cutoff so by 5 o'clock on Friday, we need to have all your votes in. That should give everybody enough time to make their votes known. As far as things that have been going on with chapel, probably the main thing is our dealing with COVID and our learning how to respond to it. We wear masks now in the chapel all the time. I'm far enough away from everybody that took my mask off for this, so I don't think I'm breathing out on them, but we are being as safe as possible. We had a team put together that was responsible for looking at when we could get back to service. I know everybody would love it if we had the chapel back open and we could serve from inside. We're taking a very cautious approach. Our church congregation has a number of elderly people that would be considered high risk. We're taking all that into account. So when we did decide to begin service up again, we figured that outdoor is much safer with the breeze and everything, but as long as we keep our social distancing and everything, and those that have been coming, we've been hearing great things. They're just happy to be back at the chapel. So, please continue to work with us. We're doing what we can, but we do not want to try to rush things along in any way that's going to put anyone at undue risk. But also keep in mind that while there's those that do feel comfortable coming to the chapel, there's also those that don't. And we have learned not only that we could do online service, but we probably should have been doing online service a long time ago. There's a lot of people that have said that they feel more connected now to the church now that they have that ability to watch our Sunday service. So that's something that we will continue on even once we're beyond this. and we can have full services here at the chapel. We're going to continue with the video and online services, and we're continually trying to make those better and better. We actually approved a fairly sizable amount to be given to the technology group to get the proper equipment to do those broadcasts. We're still working on our internet connection, which is right now probably our biggest challenge in being able to broadcast live. We can't keep the quality up, and as many of you probably saw when we tried, we had delays. We had the times that the whole video would hang up. That's due to our internet. We're looking at the possibility of getting a faster internet, but we're not sure that that's even possible right now. We're still going through those options and seeing what we can do. Outside of that, the preschool is trying to figure out how they can begin this fall. They're working on multiple options, some being in person, some being through video and whatnot. They're actually following a lot of the same guidelines as the Lee Summit School District to try to get cues from them. There's been some informal talk with the parents as to who's comfortable to send their kids here, who's not. So there's going to go into that. We've actually canceled our 2-year-old class, just trying to get them to wear masks and keep them on. It's not really something that's going to work. But we've talked about potentially expanding our 3-year-old class that was on Tuesdays and Thursdays to be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So even if we can get the everything down and we can follow what the school's doing and everything else, there's still the possibility we may not have enough families to support actually opening the preschool. So that's an ongoing thing that through the rest of this month, I know Sarah Conley, our preschool director, is working very diligently at trying to make sure that we've got all of our bases covered. The great thing is we have all of our teachers that we've had for years, and they've been involved in the process of coming up with the processes, the procedures, how to handle things, how to keep each class independent and not rotating in some things that they had done before. So there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, a lot of things that people don't see. Alex Hamilton and Dave Barthold have been on a number of projects. Just because we're not meeting doesn't mean the chapel doesn't still need its attention, and they've been getting a lot of things knocked out. So that's a good thing. So there's still things going on, and we're trying to keep as many programs and stuff going in any way that we can. I know the Bible study is still going on. For one of them, they're meeting outside. There's also an online one through Zoom sessions. So we're still trying to provide the kind of growth and nurturing that we need to as a chapel. Tell you, board meetings have been a little bit different. We've not had a board meeting in person since all this began, and it's a little different trying to conduct those over Zoom. But again, we're rolling with the changes, and there's actually some probably new things and good things. It's making us stretch and think of new ways to provide opportunities and to serve. So God may give us challenges, but He also gives us opportunities in those challenges. So that's pretty much just kind of catch you up a little bit on what's been going on this year. Not that you're not aware of a lot of that already, but want to get onto the bylaws. Per our bylaws, we're supposed to be reviewing those every 3 years. And we just have had a lot of changes over the past couple of years. The last time the bylaws had a full review was in 2015. And we knew that we needed to get to it, but we had a lot of other things that we had to get in place. We wanted to get our vision and mission put in place, and if you remember, that was approved back in December at our congregational meeting, because how can you have your bylaws help reflect what your vision and mission are if you don't have your vision and mission set? So we had been kind of delaying that, but we now have a team that's been reviewing that have been going through in earnest and figuring out the most important ways. They're not trying to do it in one whole chunk. They're taking it a little bit at a time. And they have now come to the board with some recommended changes to 3 different sections. And in a minute, we're going to have Cami Thomas come up and talk about what those are. Those are the documents that should have already been sent out. You've had the opportunity, hopefully, to read a summary and read the actual text of the changes. But do keep in mind that the board, these were brought to the board. The board had their comments and recommendations. They went back a few times to modify those to a degree, and what is coming to you has been approved by the board unanimously. They've been put forward as being good changes that we recommend, that we approve. But at this point, I'm going to let Cami come up and talk about what those changes are. We do have a few people here that stayed for the meeting, even though the service was canceled. And if they have questions, hopefully we'll be able to get those answered, and this recording will give you that opportunity. If you have a question that's outside of anything that is brought up today, please feel free to immediately contact the office this week and try to get that done. We will try to not only answer your question, but broadcast that out to everyone, because maybe somebody didn't think about it, but it was a darn good question that they wish they had asked. So anyway, we'll have Cami come up and talk about that, and then I will wrap up the meeting. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Again, my name is Cami Thomas, and I was asked to chair this bylaws committee. And on the committee, we also had a few other members. We had Kay Coleman, we had Pam Evans, Chuck Kestner, and Pastor Donna. So the 5 of us have been meeting quite often to look at these. And what we have done is we have put together changes for 3 of the 6 articles. We'd like to do half of them at this meeting and then half of them at the December meeting. One quick thing that I will tell you about the bylaws is that we did a lot of just reordering the bylaws just so that the sections were more logical and they were more readable. So a lot of the changes had to do with that. So what I'd like to do is just highlight a few of the things that might be more substantive and talk a little bit about why we made those changes. So I'm starting with Article 2. And the first one I'd like to talk about is in Section 1. We added an entire section to identify the Board of Directors as the primary governing body at Longview Chapel, and we listed some responsibilities of the board. Again, that wasn't in there the way we wanted it to be, so we made that change. In Section 2 of Article 2, we expanded the membership on the board to include delegates of 6 church ministries and 1 church committee. This was really to allow for full board representation of select church functional groups. In the past, it was the elders that voted, and we really felt like there were more people heavily involved in what was happening in the church, and so we really wanted to have those ministry teams have a vote on the board. Section 3, in terms of meetings, we talked a little bit more about higher expectations for attendance at the meetings. That wasn't in there, and we thought that was important. Subsection 3.3, and you'll see this in a couple of spots where we are allowing for more web-based or virtual participation. And in this section, we're allowing for the use of web-based and other electronic means for meetings. Again, we've been doing that now in this COVID era, and we want to further that. Subsection 3.3, also, we added the requirement that the attendance of all board members would be taken and recorded. As the vice president now, I do take attendance, but we don't necessarily have a requirement that we actually record that. We're going to do that in the future. Section 4, board voting. Specify who has voting privileges, disallow proxy voting for individual board members, but allow the use of remote voting by electronic means. What we want to do is if a ministry member is not able to make the meeting, we want them to be allowed to designate another ministry member to vote for them if they would like to, but we also want to be able to allow folks to vote electronically. So that was Article 2, and I can ask for questions at the end. So let me go ahead and go through sections or Article 3 and 4. So in Article 3, this had to do with officers. We added a new section entitled it Section 1, and we added duties and responsibilities, and we really wanted to expand upon the duties and responsibilities of all of the church officers. We really felt like it was helpful to have responsibilities laid out. We also added a new Section 2 for qualifications, a similar thing. We wanted to talk a little bit about the skills that somebody would need to bring to this office. And then new Section 3, selection and elections. We added an entire section to clarify the process of becoming a church officer. So hopefully that is helpful. And then finally, Article 4, and this is really where a lot of the substantive changes came. And so there are several that I want to address. What we did was we removed the scheduling of deacons and elders for weekly communion and greeter duties from the responsibility of the presiding deacon. And what we're going to do is we're going to have the office, and so our administrative assistant would do that. That just seemed like a kind of an onerous process for the presiding deacon, and maybe would dissuade somebody from wanting to serve in that role. We've also established the prerequisite of at least 1 year of active membership at the chapel before becoming eligible to become a deacon or an elder. Again, we really feel like people need to know what the church is about before they become a deacon or elder. We set term limitations of 3 years for both the deacons and elders. And this is something that people have had questions about. And why did we do this? We did this because we have had feedback over the years of people feeling like they couldn't say no. They become an elder, and it's just kind of in perpetuity. They continue to be an elder. We asked them, do you want to continue to serve? And they really felt like they didn't have an out, that if they said no, they would be considered that they weren't really involved in the church anymore. So we really felt like it was good to have a respite year, 1 year, so they can kind of re-energize, and if they want to continue serving after that time, then to let the nominating committee know that they're ready again. But we really felt it was important for 3-year terms for both deacons and elders. We established a managed staggered rotation protocol so that we wouldn't have all of our deacons and elders going off at the same time. So we would have about a third of the deacons and elders being reelected each year. And so you had experience on that board that you didn't completely lose every year. We also aligned the unplanned vacancy filling process for both deacons and elders with the standard yearly practice. So we eliminated the board just appointing somebody. We really felt like this was important enough that it should be voted on. We also set the number of deacons at Longview Chapel at 18 or less, and then the number of elders at 12 or less. And again, we just felt like in terms of the size of our church, this made more sense. We did a lot of research. We looked at other churches, larger, our size, smaller, and it seemed like the majority really had a little bit more efficient number of elders and deacons, so we went with that. So those are the highlights of the different articles. Please feel free to email the office if you have other questions, and I can certainly answer those for you. And as Dave said, we can get the answers out to everybody. Those of you that are here today, are there any questions that I didn't address that you have?
Can
Yes.
you make sure that it's clear that during that respite year from being a deacon or an elder does not mean that you can't serve on ministry team that year. It's just you're stepping away as a deacon or elder for that year.
So for those of you in the audience, Dave reminded me that during the respite year for being a deacon or elder, that doesn't mean that you can't serve in other ways. You could be part of a ministry team. You could be a chair of a ministry team. We don't want you to not be part of the church. That's not the point. It's that the deacon and elder, we just want you to take a year to just kind of rest and rejuvenate. But if you want to serve on a ministry team, you are more than welcome to do that. Other questions or comments? Pastor Donna or Kay, was there anything that I missed that you think is important to highlight?
I don't think so, Karen.
Okay.
She's covered it.
Okay, so I will, yes.
All the documents are on the front page of the website. So
Okay.
if anybody's looking for those, that's the easiest place to find them.
So Pastor Donna indicated that all of the documents about the bylaws are on the front page of the website if you would like to reference those. So please vote. We want to know how you feel about this. We don't want to have bylaws that people don't agree with. We did put a lot of hard work and thought into this, and we hope that these bylaws are sound. So I'll turn it back over to Dave. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Cammie. That was a good, fairly quick review of what changes are being proposed in the bylaws. Again, these all came before the board, and the board felt like they were good changes. Like she said, some of them were just to try to put sections together that seemed to belong better together. And, you know, when the bylaws were, who knows when they were originally put together. I think it was back in the late 80s or something like that. You know, obviously we never had to think about electronic versions of meetings, voting, and things like that. And our world is changing pretty fast. So that's good that they thought about that and decided that we needed to address it, because there's been times in the past where we've wanted to have maybe a quick board meeting on something, and it was difficult because we really weren't set up to allow for having electronic meetings. So hopefully everybody's got their questions answered. If not, like I said, this week we can try to get you those answers, but the earlier you can get those questions in, the easier it is for us to get an answer back out and have people time for people to consider that. Outside of that, for those that are here, is there any questions that you've got for the meeting before we adjourn? Then I will call to a conclusion the first of the two required congregational meetings for Longview Chapel for 2020. And I thank everyone for their attendance, and those that will be watching this on video and voting, thank you for taking the time to participate and get your vote counted. Thank you.